Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. At this time, information is preliminary and is subject to change as the investigation continues. Just after 10:15 a.m. today, officers responded to an incident involving a 50-year-old male at the Queens Medical Center. The reporting person notified HPD dispatch that the male was expressing suicidal thoughts and stated that he had a firearm. When officers arrived at the scene, the male was standing alongside the sidewalk of Punch Bowl Street between South Baratania Street and South Vineyard Boulevard. At approximately 10:20 a.m., as officers approached the male, he reached into his waistband area, pulled out a firearm, and pointed it at the officers. In response, the officers fired shots, striking the male. The suspect was detained immediately after being subdued and was taken to the Queens Medical Center for treatment. The male subsequently succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced deceased. No officers were injured during this incident. The firearm used by the male was recovered at the scene. At 10:21 a.m., all lanes on Punch Bowl Street between South Vineyard Boulevard and South Baratania Street were closed to allow for investigation and for emergency personnel to operate safely. Access was allowed to the Queens Medical Center's emergency room as needed. At 1:02 p.m., all lanes on Punch Bowl Street were reopened. Both officers who discharged their firearms have 5 years of service with the department. They have been offered administrative leave, which is standard procedure for this type of incident. The suspect has a total of 4 criminal convictions, including 1 felony conviction for assault on a law enforcement officer. Further updates will be provided as soon as they become available. We appreciate the public's patience and cooperation as we work through the details of this ongoing investigation. I will now take questions.
Did he just get discharged from like Ella or Queens Hospital?
You know, I'm not aware of that, no.
What kind of gun did he have?
It was a revolver type gun.
Was he on probation? That's why he was out, or?
I'm not sure if he was on probation. Yeah, that's part of our investigation.
Can you describe his demeanor, what led up to him pulling the firearm?
Well, the reporting person had said that he was expressing suicidal thoughts, so that came in as part of the call. So I can imagine maybe that was part of it, but you know, that, again, that's also part of our investigation.
Who was the reporting person? Like a witness?
I'm not too clear about that. Yeah, again, probably part of our investigation, yeah.
At this point, is it safe to say you guys are calling this a death by cop situation kind of thing, or?
You know, just based on the way the call came in, one can assume that, but obviously we don't want to assume that. So that is part of the question that we're going to be asking as we continue to investigate this, most definitely.
In this type of situation, when someone's expressing suicidal thoughts and they could be possibly armed, what is the protocol for approaching officers? Do they come in with their guns drawn? What's the?
You know, anytime an officer is dealing with someone who's armed or potentially armed, obviously they're going to approach the situation as if the individual is armed. Obviously, officers deal with individuals who's armed, you know, on a regular basis. They want to make sure they keep themselves safe and the public safe. Obviously, for someone who is suicidal, you know, there's different things that we can do. But once that person decides to use deadly force and point a gun at an officer or a member of the public, then officers are trained to take the necessary action to keep not only themselves, but the public safe as well.
So 2 officers fired on this?
That's correct. 2 officers fired their weapons.
Do we know how many shots were fired?
You know, that's, I'm hearing that it's multiple shots, but exactly how many shots, I'm not sure. That'll be part of our investigation as well.
Do you know if the gun the suspect had was a ghost gun or was it registered?
So I can tell you that it was not a ghost gun. There was a serial number. I can also tell you that it was not registered, but it was also not reported stolen.
As far as the hospital, was it ever placed on lockdown?
You know, I don't know. You'll have to check with Queens Hospital as far as what their protocols are.
But there was no police ordered lockdown?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
What else can you tell us about the suspect in terms of, was he stable living or homeless, or what was that situation like?
You know, not that I'm aware of. I'm not sure what his living condition was like prior to this. Any other questions?
You know, the officers did everything, followed protocol, did everything they were supposed to do to protect public safety.
You know, based on what I know about this, it appears that they followed their training. Of course, that's going to all be part of our investigation.
Have you been able to view any of the body-worn camera footage from the shooting?
I have not.
But it exists.
There is body-worn camera that exists, but I haven't been able to review it. That's correct. There's also other surveillance video, but that's still all part of the investigation.
And how long did the road closure last?
I believe from what I have here that at 10:21 a.m. the lanes were closed on Punchbowl Street, and at 1:02 p.m. they were all reopened.
For the officers involved, can you talk about how they're feeling in light of it? Have you checked in with them, their mental
I
state?
have not had a chance to check in with them. I do plan to, but I can imagine that any officer who goes through something like this, it's got to be really traumatic. You know, our officers, they go through a lot. And I can only imagine that when an officer wakes up in the morning, the last thing on their mind is thinking that they're going to get into a situation like this. Being an officer, it's tough. And I really commend them for doing what's needed to keep not only themselves safe, but the public safe. Yeah, I feel for them, but I feel for the family as well. It's a tough job. Yeah, I definitely will check in on them.
Were they partners?
I'm sorry?
Were the two officers, was it their partners?
Yes, they work together.
They worked together.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, do you plan to release the body camera footage at some point?
Yeah, yes, we do.
Do you have any estimated timeline of how long?
I don't, sorry.
Has the family of the victim been identified, and if so, what was that interaction like?
I'm sorry, one more time?
The family of the victim, have they been notified, and what was that interaction
No,
like?
typically that is the job of the medical examiner. So once an autopsy is completed, then the medical examiner would notify the next of kin. I'll take one more question. Any last questions? Okay, thank you.